Thanks, Susie. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Conservation Board meeting. It is August 6th. In our meeting at 6:32. Tonight we have Matt Madison, Tim Corbin, myself, Pat Coleman as chair. Some folks from the community, thanks for being here. We'll get started with the Fishers Point subdivision. This applicant is looking to swap location of an existing conservation easement or to dissolve the easement so that a fence may be constructed. And of note, this is on the town board agenda for this month. Had some time to review it. Any thoughts, questions? Point from the board. I don't know that we have any folks from.
Do we have our community
Present?
So I guess, my thought, I think this was the original home from that subdivision. The proposal is kind of a fence around the entirety of the lot, pretty much.
Right.
Wooden fence, with a gate. And
Non-closing gate.
non-enclosing gate?
Non-closing gate.
Non-enclosing.
I heard that, but
Fair. So, I guess my thinking may be more along the lines of, rather than abandoning the easement.
Right.
To allow fence and, small garden. I think that's a conventional garden, allow that to be in the easement versus abandoning it entirely. Curious what you.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I wouldn't want to dissolve it. I mean, I think we could just dissolve it. Let's forget about it, So we'd either have to allow the fence in it, like you said. Or move the fence, but then they've got setback, they've got other reasons that they can't place else.
Are you here for?
I am, I'm so sorry.
Okay, no,
Fine.
no worries, we're
Welcome.
just getting started.
are you, Jennifer?
Yes,
Nice to meet you.
nice to meet you.
Pat, Matt, Tim.
Hi.
Yeah, could you maybe just give us an overview? I mean, we have some notes,
Yes.
some emails, et cetera, but that would be helpful.
Yes, so I actually started this process last year, but wires got crossed. And I was looking to put fencing in to where there was an easement, conservation easement, so that I could start growing food. I wasn't sure the correct term. The people at the village or, the town recommended those phrases like get rid of abatement or whatever those terms are. All I wanted was an exception to put in a fence so that I could grow some food.
Sure.
So I'm not sure if I wrote it correctly. The property in and of itself, the parts that aren't in the open space easement have these trees that are like 120 years old. They're huge oaks. And so it's all shaded. Right behind the property, right behind the house, which is in the bottom right-hand corner. There is, right behind the house is the septic. I don't have an exact location for the septic. I'm just told that it's in that general area. But can I go up?
Certainly,
Is that
yeah.
okay? Thanks. Thank you so much. All right, so right up here, there's some like I said, those very old I want to say they're oak trees, it could be wrong. They're right here, and then there's two huge ones here and here that basically make this whole area for the most part overcast, except for, probably like at least, 60 feet, I'd say right behind the house here and here where the septic is. And then there's also those very, very old trees that are lining the whole driveway. And then they also come down here. There's like 2 rows of them that run right along here. There also, when I bought the property, there was a swing set built in already, which I just left there. I don't know if it's in the easement exactly. I don't know if I'm supposed to be removing it. But what I was looking to do was this area back here behind the fence, or excuse me, behind the barn. This area is completely full sun here and along here. And so I was looking to be able to plant this.
Understood.
So that area, that area, maybe is mowed at the moment, like.
Yeah, I mow it, it's all grass, there's nothing there, there's no pots, furniture, planting of any kind.
More that you wouldn't be looking to remove any trees to
Gosh,
accomplish.
I don't
what-
wanna remove any trees or do much in the way of trimming, it's necessary. I was just trying to find full sun, really, away from the septic. Yeah, so this is it right behind the barn that I was talking about. And then this is what I was talking about. So along the driveway, there are these huge old trees. That's where the swing set is. And then this is basically the area that I was talking about. It looks like it's pretty big, but it's actually not that big because right around here, you can't see it. If you could see it from the front, it would probably be easier. Should have taken a picture from the front, but there's a property marker.
Does this help at all? Or no?
Yeah, no, that's good. So there is a property marker here where these trees are. Is this me? Where am I? This is me, okay. So there's a property marker, and then there is another like 10-foot easement for utilities, I wanna say it is. Something that a fence couldn't go in, so really it would be from that point in. That makes sense.
So, where would you be looking to have the fence?
So I'd be looking to have the fence from the house, either this point or this point, because my intent all along was always to at least kind of fence directly behind the house for kids and dogs, be able to have this area fenced off. But I waited because I wanted to see about growing food. I didn't want to have like a fence and then, get permission and then have all of these like another fence configuration. Yeah, just randomly in the yard. I waited to see
Sure.
what could be done, what I'd be allowed to do.
Thank you for the overview, that's helpful. Generally, what we see are challenges that we see, or what we have, there's a 50% green space requirement.
Yeah.
And so if we abandon the easement altogether, that is not gonna be met.
Yeah,
So is there any space there that we could replace or swap?
I mean, the only thing I could think of is the front of the house, but there's not a lot of room. It's close to the road. There's probably a 10-foot easement, like sidewalk easement from the road there. There is, I guess, a little bit of open space also along the front. Yeah, it's not a lot. I mean, so as to not remove the easement, because I'm not looking to build anything. I don't want
Sure.
to build a greenhouse. I don't want to subdivide. I don't want to knock down the property. It's like one of the oldest barns in Victor,
Yeah,
right? So it's an old property. I want to protect all of that, protect the trees. I just want to be able to burn. So I'm
understood, yeah.
wondering if there is like latitude for that, I guess is a better question. 'Cause
Yeah.
I'm not sure how to swap out what isn't available.
And is there an existing fence, like that split rail fence that was
That
there?
has been there since, yeah,
And that's in the easement?
it's at the edge of the property. In between the two properties, so that's the edge of the property and then starts the next property, which is one of the houses on the cul-de-sac, Oakley.
Okay, but that fence is yours?
Yes.
Okay, and then would that remain? Or is that,
I mean, I guess that depends. I mean, in theory, my intention would be to just replace it where it is.
so where that split rail fence is now? you're
Yes.
Looking to ideally have the wooden fence that you provided.
If given the choice,
Yeah.
yes.
I'm just making sure I
Yeah,
know where everything's going.
I mean, can something be an open space easement and have a fence through it? I don't know what's actually permissible. I didn't do any type of research that way.
So, yeah, there are several different types of easements. In some circumstances, we'll literally sort of form not our own, but balance of what the homeowner wants and, seems realistic. So we, as Adam, the enforcement officer mentioned, could be an option to amend the easement for this particular parcel, as opposed to obviously abandoning it altogether or swapping it. I think that's probably the best approach. We've done one of these in the past, as a recent, and it involves, there's actually two ways to go about it. You could attempt to get approval of everyone in the development, change the entire easement, costs involved, legal fees, et cetera, filing.
Yeah.
But more intense. Looks like the easier option would be to try to amend your parcels.
Are they all roped together?
I believe so.
Oh, okay.
It's my understanding. That's,
Yeah.
as far as I can tell too, with being an open space, it also says no disturbance of the natural state. I guess it- Obviously, it's been like this since you've lived there.
Yeah.
It sounds like there may be a swing set.
There's
as well.
been, there was a swing set there. When I moved in, I'm assuming it's been there for a long time.
It
Yeah.
happens often.
So when, how quickly would you be looking to have this done?
I really, if it's validly under consideration, I would wait until you did whatever it is you needed to do. Just,
And more that, you know, it may, I was just trying to understand your timeline, because if it's,
Yeah.
hey, we wanted to come look, or, you know, I didn't,
anytime.
didn't know if you'd already made the deposit on fence or.
No, because I didn't know what would come of it, I didn't make any major
Okay,
purchases of any, I waited to see how. Decide, yeah, you know,
I wouldn't mind doing a sidewalk.
It'd be great to do so.
Yeah.
Would also just mention that when you change easement language, it needs to go through a process to literally rewrite in some instances, a new survey.
so I would need to get a new survey, that's valid,
Probably,
okay,
to just determine this particular section. That you'd like to adjust, amend, you agree on the language, it gets filed, submitted. I think that would probably be the most appropriate. I would think.
yeah, I mean, it's, you know, the change to the easement from a practical purpose is gonna be placing an existing fence partially and adding in more fencing, and then allowing a vegetable garden. So it's not that you're clearing an acre of
No.
wooded forest, and,
no,
you know, it's,
no other structures, not looking to.
so, I mean, those are sort of my thoughts and comments. I wouldn't mind, quick site walk. I mean, it's, you know,
Anything.
take a long time but just to make sure we understand exactly where things are going.
It's a nice lot.
It's, you know what, it's really
It's like-
pretty, whenever I'm down by the firehouse and I talk to the firemen, they tell me that the property is one of their favorite properties. Just because of all the trees, when you go and you look at it, trees are beautiful.
If you're trying to talk us out of. a site
No, I'm not
visit-
touching it, no, I'm not, the
That's not
trees
why
are
I go
beautiful,
see
they're
it.
beautiful,
Uh,
so,
But you are on the town board agenda for,
Oh, I know.
Gone, which is good.
right,
So I would suspect we could
yeah, I think
pretty
so.
quickly, easily. And provide our comments to discuss. This one.
so is that something I go to? Just look that up,
Yeah, definitely, yeah,
okay,
yeah, to keep the process moving for your
okay.
sake.
And maybe we'll try to reach out tomorrow, to schedule what time for us to, you know, just be in the evening. and-
Yeah, evening during the week.
9 o'clock.
Cause it's dark and
Yeah,
busy,
Plans.
exactly.
It won't take long to just kind of walk that piece and.
Be great. Any questions for us?
So mentally for me to prepare, it is a new survey, possibly,
Probably.
probably.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Want to, we need to draft new language.
We
Yeah,
have draft
Area.
language, but we could do that after the site walk. We'd have a better
Do
idea.
we
of it.
draft it or?
Technically,
Yeah, I think technically she
you
has
would,
to.
you have a copy of it. And which we can share with you. And essentially would be having an additional amendment, I guess, would allow opening of a vegetable garden. That way you keep your 50%, there's no disruption of that. You don't have to go try to change the entire easement subdivision. I think that's the
That's
most
right.
practical.
Yep.
Thank you.
And dealing with Kim, it's like,
Yes.
so we'll have Kim reach out with a copy of the easement. Then we'll work with she or Amber, to schedule a site walk.
So I should reach out to Kim and have her send it? No.
I'll put it in the notes.
Okay.
And reach out to her to do so.
Thank you.
Welcome. Nice meeting you. Thanks for coming. You're welcome to stay. Welcome to go.
Thank you, I'm sorry.
Maybe what? Oh, you're fine.
I should listen to everybody else's. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's long. Item number 2, Scout Path 6850 Elridge Road. Gonna swap a location of existing conservation easement to accommodate a home constructed in a different location than approved. We have some folks from the project tonight.
I'll start, Mike Green, I'm
Mike,
the surveyor, we're guys doing the layout on the field, this is the Bruce Green buildings. These are the homeowners, and they're looking forward to getting in their new house out there, and Scott DeHaan, the engineer.
Scott, good to see you.
I can give you a brief
Sure,
explanation.
yeah, fire away.
on. So Scott laid it out, he left some, in doing the 50% rule, he left a little bit along the I guess it'd be the south property line, looking at it there. And what we're just looking to do is to make that section smaller because it's so close to the house. No matter what, it was gonna be very tight to be able to build the house and maintain that section. So we're offering to make a larger area out back, conservation easement, closer to where the wetland kind of area is there. And so, yeah, that's kind of the gist of it. Pretty straightforward 50-50 swap.
And Scott, I mean, you, if you recall, as I don't, what was the rationale for having the easement be where it is now? When we did the original layout, we were focusing on the area that wouldn't necessarily be encumbered by fences or shelves or buildings and making that part of the conservation easement. So the setback became kind of the focus, right? So when we looked at that lot, we gave respect to Oldridge as being the front yard. And that's what drove the setback, that width that's there. I think it's 30 feet. The reality though is that that really makes that buildable area very tight. We were able to do a layout where the building's not in the conservation easement, but the grading extends into the conservation easement. That's a problem, right? Because you can't really disturb the conservation. So as a practical matter, we should have been more careful about this layout to consider the grading impacts that would have happened. So this is, I think as Mike laid out, really a better solution because the environmental sensitive area is really that area in the back where you've got the Blue Line Creek. And this would just provide additional buffer at no area loss to the 50% conservation area for that we originally laid out. So, and it complies with the zoning as well. The setbacks are respected. So there aren't any new issues associated with that.
Got it. So in the future, maybe we be more mindful of our
a grading.
Grade
Yeah, the
that
earth
goes-
movement.
Yeah, there's significant grade change across the site and that it's a nice feature.
Yeah.
But it sort of creates the issue that we're struggling with in terms of
It kind of
how
tends,
everything falls
it
away.
tends to happen a lot when you start, you're looking down from above
Sure.
and it lays out really nice, but then when you start realizing the,
Yeah.
the grade change and the amount of disturbance that may happen.
Will any of the kind of water flow creating affect any issues with? There are a couple, there's a retention pond, if I recall, kind of in that corner. I don't think that's anywhere near this site.
Yeah, all those technical issues are maintained and really, when the town engineer looked at the grading, with the proposal for where the house is sited, the only issue that came up was the conflict with the conservation. There were no technical issues that were raised. In terms of privacy, I'd point out too, there's a healthy conservation easement that remains on the adjoiner property line. So we aren't really compromising any of the privacy that that conservation easement is promoting. You still have a nice healthy 30-foot plus the 15 remaining there of conservation easement. We already talked about it. It really puts that in a spot where it benefits the environmental feature that we're trying to protect.
In terms of markings, would the new easement be marked as it is today, assuming there are stakes or?
So usually, what we do is, get the house constructed, get the rough grading
Sure.
and pretty close to final grading, and then they, have us go out and mark it with, stakes or whatever, and I guess there's some permanent markers that Victor
Yep.
provides.
Yeah.
And sometimes the folks don't really like those, so then I believe they allow like large rocks.
Exactly,
and
yeah.
Things like
Tree,
that, so we'd leave it up to them as to,
Oh.
what they'd like to see at the end. So they
I
know.
would just say if approved, we would just, we want to be sensitive of not, those are pretty hard lines, it's a big rectangle, so when mowing, for example. Sounds odd, but do your best to follow those lines so that you're not in the, for example, and
Okay.
eroding that space further. See that from time to time.
I'm kind of looking at it and I would like to know the board's opinion on it. So we've left a little bit of the conservation easement in the front yard going out towards the road. We could include that or exclude that and then even make that one out back just that much bigger to make it 50-50. So they're not worried about, disturbing that other little area there. Just thinking out loud kind of.
I guess it's our intention. We liked that it was going to be
We're gonna keep that all down through there
enclosed.
where the intermittent stream is. We were gonna keep that all very natural anyways. We weren't going to do
Sure.
mowing and
Got it.
all sorts of stuff.
We want to have a maintainable lot and then the rest is natural.
And just let it go. That's our intention.
Is there anything sensitive in that front part that you're?
No, in fact, there's been some, the driveway's been built, there's some utilities that run back in there.
Yes. Nothing
It would just
value
be
there.
probably more or less just kind of the wild foliage coming back. At this point.
So the shaded area, the existing easement, I assume this is oriented north.
Yeah, I can promise.
So to the west, is that the west of the current easement? Is that easement as well?
This is
Yeah.
got a little easement and then this is all the easement. And then back here.
So it would be, I'm getting up to. Like, this is easement, and then
Yes.
it would stop.
Yeah,
And
so right
then-
now it'd be maintained like this. Right now it comes straight back to there and then just giving them a little room around the house, taking that piece, putting it over there.
Yeah, I mean, so there would be a marker here, here.
Yeah, technically there'd be one here, here.
Yeah.
Here.
And then that's what your mow line looks like.
Yeah.
You're okay with having that mow line?
Or would you
straight
rather-
cuts around
there'd be more easement in the back and this,
Then that way, this would all, this area here could be kind of a squared off lawn area.
that's what I'm wondering if.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you-
we need to- I wanna have a side lawn, I wanna have a side yard so we can get around the house
around the side of the house and around to the back.
and to mow
So that would work better if we did put it towards the back
towards the back.
Yeah, just,
and then have that,
We could even, yeah, we'll do whatever works out so that there's least amount of jogs maybe.
Yeah, it probably would be best.
that's what we like to usually see, because generally the homeowner doesn't wanna be mowing shapes into their, their yard.
So it feels like remove the easement here and then add back here.
Make it come out.
yeah, to be honest, that would be like,
The best.
we'd like that to stay.
Is there anything else sensitive there that we were trying to protect originally?
There was just scrub brush and there was nothing there other than, you know.
Yeah, we just saw that setback area is being available, unused, and that was the basis for the layout of the conservation easement bridge.
Yeah, I mean, we approved it, so we're.
Oh, yeah.
I walked it
It's
too, I remember.
Oh, yeah, we walked it, it's cold.
Yeah.
Cold.
That makes sense.
Makes sense to me.
Yeah,
I saw that code enforcement officer mentioned that trying to substitute kind of same character and quality of property.
If
But
anything, what's out back there is
Yeah.
a better character than what we're
Exactly.
giving up, so.
I think that portion is like scrub thick stuff. I'd rather obviously respectful of his comments, but I would be just fine to take care of that wetland and, that area back there just as much. So I think from here, unless there are any other comments or thoughts,
I'm good with
we'll
that.
just need a new drawn up
Tomorrow.
tonight. We'll provide our
Yesterday.
comments. You're on the town board agenda. Get the ball back up.
What date is that?
Okay.
we already, we know. I think.
Folks, I believe. I think it's the 27th.
We, somewhere we know.
We will not miss it.
Perfect.
Please.
Yes, yes.
So trying to understand the process, you guys make a recommendation.
Exactly.
And then tell them the story again and they'll act at that point in time.
Yep, and so they'll have our notes that we, like the idea. And ultimately, they'll make the decision, but they'll take our comments and weigh in on those.
We'll actually have another meeting prior to then, so if you provide that, we can provide commentary, drop the traces.
Get an input as well.
Do we need to redefine the entire conservation easement or just the portion on this lot, this particular portion?
Thankfully. Yeah.
It's a lot easier to pick out and understand it, without looking at the whole thing.
Yeah,
yeah, and when looking at the whole thing, I can see why we made it when you have all
yeah.
the lots there, but when it's narrowed into just this one,
And,
yeah.
and Scott's 1,000,000% right with when we're doing these layouts, we try to, the area that you can't build in anyway, that automatically kind of, okay, that's a good place for the conservation area, but in this case, it's gonna be better when we change it in the end.
yeah. I would say too, it was so thick, it was hard to tell, probably some of the topography,
Oh,
right?
that was incredibly thick in there.
So I think it was worse on the south side of the, down in there.
By the poison ivy that I had. I'm not sure we will all agree that.
Well, thanks for coming.
Yes, thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Very well. Good night.
Thanks, guys.
Right, moving along, Smith subdivision applicant is requesting acknowledgement of a complete application to develop a second parcel from the existing parcel at 421 County Road 9. Lot 1 is proposing a lot line adjustment for a total of 1.508 acres. Lot 2 will consist of an existing home with driveway access to County Road 9 on 2.06 acres. Lot 3 will consist of 0.920 acres with access onto County Road 9. This is the first step. Major subdivision, and only acknowledgement of the completed application will be considered at this meeting. right?
Are you Smith
from-
or you're,
Yeah.
okay, you're the fourth, okay.
Um. Any thoughts?
I mean, I have some questions, further down the line for the purpose of today, just acknowledging.
acknowledging that it's
completed
completed.
application. I acknowledge that.
I acknowledge it.
Excellent, acknowledged. Moving on. Piper Meadow, discussion on consequence for breaking conservation easements. You folks here for Piper?
Yeah, we're here.
Went over?
We saw the,
We wanted to understand, we're new to Victor.
Gotcha.
Well,
We've been here just a couple of
there are
years, so,
4 people.
so we've been around the area
We
forever.
won't hold that against.
But we wanted to get an understanding. We saw this on the agenda and we just wanted to get an understanding of what it's all about.
Yeah, so, can you welcome to hop up if you'd like? Here, if you don't mind just kind of giving us, we have some notes from code enforcement, but don't mind just bringing us up to speed on how we got to here. Any
We don't-
thoughts?
We don't
Oh,
know.
no, we saw it on the agenda.
We saw it on the agenda, so
I
we
just
just
go
wanted to
through the
hear what was
town.
going on.
Okay.
Um,
My retirement project.
yeah.
Going to college. And this,
So I mean, it was brought to our attention, so there is a conservation easement on this property. That allows certain activities to be performed in that or to not be performed. One of which is removing trees. And it was brought to the code enforcement officer's attention that there was disturbance in the area and the trees were removed. So that would be the violation of that easement. And so that's sort of where it was brought to our attention and to see how, you know, what, how we wanted to proceed. So,
okay,
you know, this is kind of a new,
yeah, we're.
Valuation.
evaluation for us too. So, but
Victor has a lot of conservation easements, so have you had to address this in the past on any of your other?
occasionally, but it doesn't happen that often.
things we've seen have been easier to, so we've seen a shed that was 2 feet into the easement. And so it's pretty easy to say, we've got to have that moved, you know, we'll be back in a month and
Right.
it comes out of the easement, moves forward a couple. This is a little different because
Yeah, it's a
we
bunch of
need to figure out
dead
what to do with
trees
that.
that
So
I think
maybe
these
that-
homeowners
maybe
are
if-
dealing
That may be helpful to just, you know, explain what, you know, you were trying to do with the property and, you know,
with.
just so
We're
we.
just new, I mean, we bought from Morel Builders.
Yep.
2 years ago and, you know, I know we bought the model home, so we weren't the first in the neighborhood, but I know the first people first owner is our wall mate that's
Okay,
attached to our
yeah.
townhouse. And I know when they actually signed their purchase offer, it was a beautiful lush forest and then the dead ash trees,
Mhm.
you know, the ash borer got them. So, you know, I think of concern has been, you know, and we don't know in violation or whatever, but
Right,
I think what's happened is, you know, as newer people have moved in, we're fully, all 20 homes are sold now.
Mhm.
You know, there's some people that you sit in their dining room and we've got these huge glass windows and there's a dead ash tree, you know, right out, you know,
Pretty
within
all around.
within
Right,
20
right.
feet of that window. So I think that that's been of concern to a lot of the neighbors.
so, what the work, and I don't know if you did it or someone else, doesn't kind of matter, but,
And it's
you
not
went in
just
and tried to
our-
remove the dead ash trees, is that a fair?
Well, I think
Yeah,
some,
Assumption of what-
yeah, if the road someone was, but we thought that they had petitioned the town and had permission to do them. Like within the last couple of weeks, there's been a couple trees that are down.
Sure.
But we understood from our HOA guy that, you know, I understood from him that they had called the town and the town came out and took care of it, but I don't know who the tree person was that did it.
Yeah, I was just looking through the easement real quick because sometimes it'll say specifically, you know, if the easement is causing, you know, danger. If it's
Sure.
dangerous, right? You got a dead tree hanging over the
Dead
house.
yeah.
You could
Yeah.
go get it. I didn't see it in here specifically. I thought that might be an out. Or it's like, well,
Yeah, we had some conversation with code enforcement about that, and sure, if that's the case, just let them know. You know, certainly a dead ash.
Yeah, we know we had them, yeah.
But, I'm just curious, was it marked out? Was the easement marked at all, or signage? Is
We
there
recently
signage?
got the post put in, now that the
Oh, gotcha,
neighborhood is
okay.
finished,
Yeah.
yeah.
There's 4x4 posts throughout
Throughout
the
whole
perimeter of the neighborhood,
cul-de-sac,
all up
yeah.
to the woods and all that.
okay. And that's why, because and you've heard this whole night ended up being about easements. We've been really careful about making sure easements are placed when the builder leaves the neighborhood.
Yeah.
And lets the homeowners know what those mean, right? Because we've had people say, oh, that post in the middle of my yard, yeah, the first thing I did was chuck it when I moved in. So we're trying to help educate folks to know what it means, especially before you buy, to say, this means you can't do anything over there. You're still good with this lot.
So part of that education as far as easements, so do you guys know what type of easement we have? Is it something that's gonna last forever? Is it something that's got a 5 or
Yeah.
10
No,
years
runs with the
on it?
land.
Annuity, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
So you can get a copy. There's a copy here, a copy gets filed, I think, with your deed, so it's on file. Like Pat said, it literally says exactly.
Is it a no use easement?
let me just,
So there's a couple different types, and some allow for, you know, you can walk through it and, you know, maintain small existing footpaths and things like that. Generally, no structures are allowed, so you can't put a shed, pool. You know, some allow seasonal mowing, but you couldn't clear the land, make it mobile, but if it's mobile now, you can. So it kind of depends on, I don't recall which easement
Yeah, like
yours is.
we have a retention pond, not on our side of the street, but on the Eden number side, you know, like are children allowed to fish in the pond, or they, you know, is there, like, is that the kind of use that it's for?
So you want to take a look at that, right? Usually when we set up the easements, it has to do with what's already there. So if it's something very sensitive and we really don't want it to be touched at all, we kind of call it a no-touch easement. So we'll put that no-touch easement on there. If you read the language, it would say like, don't even walk there.
Yeah, we do have walking trails.
But then
that
there's-
Morale put in.
Yes, yeah, that would be, that would be fine. So there's that no touch for very sensitive things. And then there's, as Pat was starting to describe, if you were just walking and creating a path, you could create a path. You can't go down and cut down trees to create that path and then for structures. There's different and then there is actually something called, that we refer to as like site specific. If the site just doesn't fit anything else that we've got and we want to make sure, well, you can farm over here, but there you can't touch, we'll put something very specific in. So and this one looked like,
it's, basically it allows for the exceptions, pretty much. Don't disturb it.
Yeah.
Unless.
Right, so we,
Yeah, the exceptions are underground or other fencing which could be seen through. Clearing of brush, trees, mowing to those trails 14 times per year. And tractors, mowers, or other similar equipment being used for limited purposes, not restricted, swear in this document. Removal, harvest of trees that are approved, removal of dead falls, brush. So it's pretty limited. I would say the heart of it kind of is line item 3, it just basically says all lands within the easement area shall remain in their natural condition undisturbed. So
Yeah.
pretty restrictive, I would say.
Right.
Now obviously, these are dead ash trees, so one of the items that we discussed was specifically what the heck do we do about dead ash trees? They're gonna be a danger to structure. Just get approval from the code enforcement folks.
Just get on.
Good to go.
Yeah.
But we do ask to, or we do look to just remedy, disturbances. And so all we, I think, would ask, be appropriate to ask, you could just plant however many trees you took down.
Okay.
Might be an easy remedy, and then maybe seed there with some natural seeding.
So we can plant trees back in there.
I would say that would be just.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a little odd because
Especially disturbed, but
Yeah,
well,
that'd be-
but I mean, if we had this conversation 6 months ago and you asked code enforcement, can I take down these these dead ash trees, they have said yes, and we would be here. But since we are here, we're all for planting more trees. So I don't think I wouldn't necessarily look for, go to Bristol's and get an 8 foot.
40 foot.
Yeah, tree. There's the Arbor Day Foundation and things you can, get sapling. So it's, I think ideally in 40 years, when none of us are here, there will be vegetation that is matured and grown up in that area that used to have ash trees.
I would still talk to code enforcement before that, before planting.
True, fair.
Yeah.
We have,
I just-
we have noticed that, the wind has taken down quite a few trees as well.
Yeah.
And I really haven't, I'm home today, probably, I have a dog who's walking all the time. And I really haven't observed, no one is moving wood, for any of the deadfalls that we've had, or, the couple like that we just saw the other. So. It's getting taken down, but. Adam had been out there inspecting and I went over to see what he was doing. And he says, oh, we've had some complaints about these dead trees. And he said these look pretty bad and those seem to be the two. Weeks, and he suggested that they that he could go into their home just to see the one that's like hanging outside their dining window. Ironically, that one's still standing. So I sent somebody out to do that work. Sure, some of them like walk on these paths that were all. You can just like lean against some of these trees and they fall down. You just.
Yeah.
The whole root structures on all trees come down.
Yeah, they're all
Either
rotted
break up
at
the top or the.
at the bottom. But anyway, so, I have been reading some notes from the town and, I saw this on here. You mentioned it to a couple of neighbors. Just like the information and then we'll send out an email with. So actually, I guess I can check our deed. Scan it and
You
get
can
it out.
take
Kind of that copy,
Sure.
yeah. Does it mention deadfalls?
Does,
So it says don't touch
Yeah,
deadfalls
they,
either. Yeah, they want it totally natural. It'll fall, it'll decay, it'll
Yeah.
turn back into the
And
ground,
if
you
you
know.
walk through the woods, that's what you'll see. Not like
Right.
you'll see a pot. It's just dead trees. I'll scan it and I can put a message out
Yeah,
to the
please do.
neighborhood. And the other thing that's kind of complicated is, so Morel is done with the neighborhood, but there's still the HOA.
That's what I understand,
And
yeah,
I know
so.
like people have done a lot of backyard projects and those aren't getting approved by the other homeowners that Morale's just getting the phone call and approving these things, so. That was really what we thought that this might have been about. People encroaching on the conservation area. Yeah,
That would come before us. So,
Yeah.
anything having to do with the HOA doesn't, conservation work, water, trees, that kind of stuff. So yeah, anybody who was trying to, wanted to put something in a conservation easement or anything like that, that ends up coming before us. If they wanna put a deck in and it has nothing, it's not near any easement, it would never come in front of
Right.
us. So that would just be
Yeah.
HOA and,
Yeah, he told us that
Yeah.
was landscaping.
yep.
So we'll give you, you can have this copy. There is a section that says, no trees shall be pruned, cut down, destroyed, or removed. Except as necessary, except for the management pursuant to prudent forestry standards in advance of the town. So, I think it's prudent to, remove trees that are gonna potentially be harmful. But the point is, they do want the town to be involved in this, okay? Maybe from, because it sounds like you're gonna update the neighbors. The easements should have those markers, which it sounds like they do, which is great. So, you folks know exactly where that easement line starts. You'll have a copy of what's allowed and not allowed. And, I think for the purposes here, we'd love it if, you would replace some of the trees that were taken down with some small saplings. I think there was some kind of, I saw maybe some dirt or maybe like where some tracks of a skid steer or something had gone in. If that's in the easement, the seeding that you had mentioned that.
Yeah, the area when they built, well, yeah, but it also maybe. Yes.
So,
And I know that the bulldozers be treated after the project. They just moved.
That would be another thing.
Probably.
Yeah, that was a huge.
Yeah.
That would be another thing, so anytime you're having work done or your neighbors are having work done, make sure the easements are pointed out to them, because unbeknownst to you come home from work or what have you, and the bulldozer was in there, and then someone's knocking on your door. So just let your contractors know, hey, just FYI, don't touch anything back there, because we don't wanna deal, we don't wanna get into that, so.
On a couple other notes,
Sure.
so there's 4x4 pressure treated posts that are the actual boundary markers.
Right.
So, I know we were told, our neighbor that we share, he cut it kind of close to the ground and put a tree there, so either a rock or a tree or leave the post there. Some people left the posts all the way up. Can those posts be cut right to the ground, or they gotta be left above the grade a certain amount? Because some of them are sticking up like, I mean,
Yeah,
the
the
mowers
mowers,
come
the
through.
mowers.
I mean, it's like if they were cut flush and put they have a tag it on the top. I mean,
Yeah, typically they're.
They're
It's
about-
supposed to be
oh
like.
yeah, we have
About
some of them
the
that are
other
this tall.
Yeah,
in the neighborhood.
Probably because it was quicker for them to just
yeah.
get as deep as they could and not even bother cutting it off, but I don't know if code says how high they have to be.
Uncertain, yeah.
But they do allow for, a large rock, as long as it's
Right.
large, kind of immovable
Identifiable.
and
Yeah.
identifiable, or a tree. Those are also things I would,
Yeah.
so if you're
Yeah.
interested in doing that, I would, again,
does the
talk to code
placard have to
enforcement.
go on it?
I thought the placard had to stay, oh, does it go on the rock?
Yeah, like or
Mhm.
so, I guess yes, we do allow for, markers other than the 4x4 posts. I would, before cutting it off, I would just give Adam or, let them know, hey, here's what I'm thinking. Is
Yeah,
it,
he's
is
been
it cool
around,
with you
so
guys?
he's-
Cause yeah, we don't really deal with the enforcement of things too much, but I would.
The idea would be, we just wouldn't want it to be cut so low that it would be,
That you
eventually
lose track.
grow over and you lose track of it and all of a sudden you're.
Oh, that makes sense. Makes
Yeah.
sense. So another question that I had with like the use of these conservation easement areas, and they talk about hiking and this and that. Is bow hunting allowed in our areas? It did talk about hunting in some of Victor conservation easements. Do you know if bow hunting is allowed in our easement? I mean, discharge is 150 feet. We got more than that back there. I don't know.
I would say, it's not outlined in here and it just mentions undisturbed, disturbed as possible. Right. Sounds like you may have some kids fishing in the pond nearby.
Well.
I mean,
No, we
don't
just-
have
we
any
just thought
kids
about-
in
which
our
is fine, I
neighbor.
mean,
We were
I
just, yeah, there's a lot of
We-
kids in that.
Well, there's definitely tree stands and guys that are bow hunting and they put blinds and stuff and they're right up, they're actually coming in the conservation area.
Hmm.
And a couple of the neighbors are coming in and said, Tom, what is that? I'm like.
Yeah,
"It's-
maybe from
You know,
when the
whatever.
Pipers owned it too.
Yeah, when we walked
okay.
it, there was a ton of tree stands in there
Yeah,
before,
Yes.
we walked it before the development went in.
Yeah.
Not sure if you did, but
I just wondered if that's legal.
yeah, they were.
I don't know. I
Trees
mean,
in there.
I don't know if it's-
But
I mean, because if they're gonna bow hunt, I'm gonna bow hunt.
Yeah.
so,
I mean, I live there, right?
you know. I don't, the easement doesn't spell it out, so I don't know, geez, who.
Yeah.
I don't even know.
So it looks like
I don't
the
know the rules on,
HOA still owns that property.
Right, so
So
when
I
it
would
gets
just,
transferred over to us as the homeowners,
yeah,
do those laws change? How does that work?
if they transferred it to you,
Yeah.
um. Just be a simple transfer, I
Yes,
suppose.
that's
yeah, I
what
don't
they
think
could
that
provide
your
for-
property then, but
yeah.
I would just. Just read, yeah, just,
Okay.
you'll-
We'll take
You'll-
it.
you'll figure it out.
All right, perfect. Awesome.
Good question.
Well, good.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for coming. It's helpful to
Yeah.
get some perspective. I think, obviously we're not,
Well, and I know, some people, because it is so ugly with the dead, I know that they, some people have asked about, can they just put in, like a little new plantings of,
Sure.
little tiny.
Well, some of that would, I mean, really, honestly, I mean, could be reasonable on it. Really a fire hazard. I mean, tires and stuff, I mean, could you get a, could you, and I'm just a brainstorm on it, is to bring like a small chipper in there and just chip up some of that stuff and then just leave it, get rid of the tops and all that stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, just a thought.
Yeah.
It would kind of clean up the mess. Because those trees that are coming down over the next number of years, there's gonna be trees everywhere back
Yeah.
there. And when we bought the place, it was green. I mean, it was a forest. It was beautiful. So
Right.
they died within 2 years.
2 years ago.
Yeah, it's really
Wow.
awful.
I think maybe something will just pass along this.
Yeah, and I think that tree that you had in the picture was actually the one that, did you just recently get that?
We just received it last week.
Yeah, so I think that was from, remember I called you at work and said, oh, looks like they're taking down those two dangerous trees. And they were green, they were marked, like they were labeled with a big X on them. But I don't know, Morel might have done that too. It's hard to say,
Has the property been transferred to you yet or is it
No.
still?
Not the
HOA.
HOA part of it.
And the
It was-
property that was disturbed is in the HOA now?
Well,
Yeah, well, all the houses are.
all the houses, there's 20 townhouses, 10 buildings of 2 each, and the HOA is now Morel, and then they have to go through some process with Realty Performance Group, our property manager, to transfer that over to and establish an HOA board,
Got it.
just kind of like Silverton Glen or,
Sure.
Yeah. So just to be clear, and I'm not trying to, get anyone in trouble or anything. But did you guys cut the trees or have someone cut them?
no.
On our property.
Okay.
No, we just saw this on the agenda. We're like, what's this about? Because
Oh, yeah,
because what it said on, where's,
I'm the only one that read the HOA
She's the only
rules in the whole neighborhood,
Okay.
so.
it said discussion on consequence for breaking conservation
Yeah.
easement. I was like, what's this all about?
We figured
So
it had to do with.
that's kind of what brought us here. We're like, what is this all
I
about?
think Pat maybe just saw it too, so the letter is addressed to Piper Meadows Association, so, and that's 1501 Pittsford Victor Road, it might have gone around,
Yes, that
Okay.
is Morel.
so.
So, all right, so
They're opposite.
was this even like those pictures, was that your
No,
property?
no, I
Oh,
think it's.
sorry, I was
I think it's-
assuming.
Oh, no, that's up
No,
to
I think it's a few houses.
Oh,
down.
we think we know where it is.
Yeah, I think
So you're just
that was the one.
neighbors
We're just
and
neighbors.
saw Piper Meadows,
Yeah.
okay, I thought you guys were the
No.
ones cutting it.
No.
So what address is
Then
on
you don't
that?
have to do the Sam, put the trees,
Uh,
replant trees
No,
or.
no,
or-
we had some behind us.
This
that
is for
have been
morale then,
falling, Yeah.
okay, sorry, I was thinking
Yeah.
you were the.
We thought you were the
actual-
bad guys, no.
Is the people are calling the HOA Realty Performance Group and saying, hey, we've got all these dead trees, some of them we're afraid of, they're gonna hit our
Yeah.
home. And then what happens is the HOA, really the performance group who we pay our dues to,
Mhm.
they're not really the HOA yet.
Mm.
They're, Morale is still in charge of it. So like when
Okay.
people are getting approvals to put a patio in or whatever, they're going through Morale. And they're approving things, but yeah, you have this realty performance group who is our property manager. They're actually passing, I think, it along to
Right.
Morale, because yeah, that office is at the Indy office there.
That's their indeed.
Yeah,
So what address is on that conservation easement that we? It'll be one of the. Cassidy Court. right?
Cassidy Court, yep, and then there's also conservation
Might be
property on
7137.
Piper's Meadow Drive or whatever
Yeah.
that is, Piper's Trail.
So
The Colonials are over on one street and then the townhouses are on the other street. And
Right.
we all surround that. Conservation surrounds us.
Okay. Sorry it took us 15
Yeah.
minutes to understand that you
No.
guys, it wasn't
When you put
actually
up
your.
that list, I think that's the tree of few houses, few townhouses down.
7137
taken
maybe?
out.
Okay.
7137, yeah, that's Tippers.
So I think again, just the takeaway, and our comments on, replacing the vegetation or try to return it to its
Yeah.
natural state will be directed to
To
Morale.
them, so we don't even know what yours looks like.
Yeah.
It's not that.
As that's your community, that's your neighborhood. Be mindful of those markers.
And we'll
If you want to do anything, if there is a problematic tree that you feel needs to be down, just let the town know and check with them first. Same with the marker idea that you had. But yeah, the language in there, should give you pretty good direction on what you're allowed to do and not allowed to do.
Great,
Um,
appreciate that.
Yeah, thanks for attending.
So is that tree that we saw the photograph of, did they just take it down? Or did it
We don't
go
know.
through?
Unknown.
Morale?
I mean, the letter,
Down.
yeah, the letter,
Oh, it was
yeah, I guess, the planning building department received a complaint regarding tree cutting taking place within the conservation easement. Upon investigation, it was discovered that the area of the easement had been disturbed by motorized equipment, multiple trees have been cut. Images are enclosed and no approval was given, which is in direct violation, so
Okay,
it's gonna be reviewed at the meeting.
okay.
It's recommended that a representative from your organization attend the meeting. I think that's why we thought maybe that
No.
was, so. We got Scott and Jeff.
We were gonna bring we were gonna bring our Walney with us.
We'll just read this. Oh, great.
Yes.
Pleased to meet you guys.
Okay.
Yeah, well,
Thanks. Welcome to Victor.
come back, yeah, welcome to Victor.
I think there's a music fest or something happening this
Yeah.
weekend.
Well, they're not as good as Fairport, so.
Yeah,
Sorry,
that's true.
sorry to disappoint.
That's okay, we don't miss her.
Really?
Yeah.
Where did you live, Stuart?
We
Village?
live just outside the village
It's changed a lot.
for 25 years.
It's changed a lot. We grew up in Penfield. We've been around forever. So Penfield to Fairport for 25 years and now here.
Just keep moving out.
Love it out
We
here.
love it.
Nice.
Further out, further out. Well, that's why the conservation easement's literally there to help preserve the reason that you wanted to come here, so that's what we're trying to do.
Okay.
Cool.
Well,
Thanks for
Thanks for coming.
I was gonna say,
Have a nice
we
day.
help out neighbors, we
We appreciate
we
it.
keep everyone.
Awesome. Thank you.
Enjoy the rest of your summer.
Yeah.
June 18th
Yeah,
was last. I was not here. Right?
You weren't here, I think just
Is that-
Andrew was missing. Maybe. We looked that up. David, anything you wanna let the board know or?
I was just curious about something. You don't mind my just saying. On the first one, on Fisher's Point subdivision. That area. I mean. Why do they want a wood fence back there? It's been open like this, from the very start. I can understand a chain link fence. I think, when she has neighbors back there, they might not appreciate.
big wood
A
fence.
fence.
Yeah,
I mean, if she just wants to keep animals that way,
Yeah, chain link would.
chain link would be a,
Yeah, the problem is. We don't get into the type of fence, right? I mean, I think ours was we have to somewhat have our blinders on and, you know, it's an easement question, so we want a fence in the easement or not. I mean, if the neighbors complain about a 6-foot stockade fence, you know, they'd have to take that up with the town, but that's why I wasn't even thinking about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, to Matt's point, we're concerned with can a fence be there or not?
I see.
The planning and our town board in code will know what type of fence is allowed, what's, you know, preferred.
Right, okay.
So,
Yeah, chain link, from the road, you wouldn't even really see it, it'd be
Right. Yeah.
pretty cool, but. I didn't think
Yeah.
about that because-
Feel free to ask those questions, by the
Well,
way.
I don't want to interview, I mean,
It would be, it won't hurt. So,
you're very.
and you're
kind.
open to doing that, so,
Thank you.
good question.
on the minutes we were gonna.
Yeah, minutes.
You both.
So absent was Andrew Phillips. This is the light comms that,
Yeah, I mean, when they came out and I reviewed my issues with them, so.
yeah,
Same here.
I'll
Make your
Motion to
motion.
approve.
I'll second that
Motion
motion.
and second all in favor. Any opposed, abstentions? They pass, all right. Either,
Oh,
next, thoughts, questions? Terrific, we'll call the meeting adjourned, exactly 1 hour, 7:32.
Right.